Hi, everybody. How's it going? Okay? You having a good time? Yeah?
You know, we don't need to hear that fucking pandering from you.
First thing is, I'm going to go through the clips that I already clipped out, and I'll add them in later.
Visa wants to give AI your credit card to buy groceries. Now, I guess Fortune is reporting on this. Now, I think what that means is that if you wanted to use AI as like an agent, you know, like a little AI that's your assistant, where you can tell it to go buy some tickets to the show or go buy some online groceries or something, it really can't do anything unless it can use your credit card. So it's where things had to go. So it's not even so much about Visa. It's just at some point, your robot and your AI, they kind of had to have access to some part of your finances, or else they couldn't do much useful stuff. So this is probably something that's inevitable, but it's kind of scary that the AI would have access to any of your funds.
So Scott Adams talks about, he's going to be an early adopter of robots. So whoever releases a robot that you can have in your home, he's going to get one. He's going to have it do stuff, right? Well, if I want something, hey, I need you to order something for me.
You know,
He orders it for
you know,
him.
what would be a really good use of a robot? Cooking,
Yeah,
like home cooked meals,
yeah. So basically,
nanny work,
yeah,
cleaning.
that's not going to come that quick, though. Most likely, they'll be able to say,
one thing really good.
go to the fridge, grab me
and
something.
then other things.
Yeah,
Iteratively good.
exactly. He's just basically said, I want a robot, and the robot's going to go and be able to order stuff for me. And then he said, and the thing is, though, if you have robots doing this stuff for you, you're going to also want basically a security AI agent that watches your robots to make sure they're not messing up. Because the problem is that, just like with AI, it lies. It makes up stuff.
I mean,
You know what I'm saying?
so I think you can do that right now in some ways, just using like Alexa, whatever the Amazon version is. Is that Alexa? I think it's like
Siri?
No, that's Apple. But each major tech company has their own AI assistant. But I think you can do stuff like that now. Actually, no, I don't think you can do stuff like that now. But I think that will be the first step.
No, because
If you have,
Visa
like, a
just
smart home,
just announced
you
it.
could say again.
Visa just announced it.
Announce what?
An AI agent that can be connected to your card that can buy you things.
That's just scary. Imagine being able to buy like a car or a house.
No, not that yet.
Oh, it's coming.
That's the thing.
It's
So,
coming. I don't like that. And those are major life purchases. That might be the biggest purchase in most people's lives. Not a car, but a home. Imagine being able to purchase a home in like less than 10 minutes. There's a lot of people who are going to be making a lot of sad faces when they see they accidentally bought a home.
that's much later, though. People are most likely going to drunk buy a whole bunch of shit off of Amazon first.
Yeah.
A whole
After that
bunch of
happens
shit
now.
on iTunes first.
I'm sure that happens now.
One of the guys,
People get high, they do stuff like that.
and the other clip I have, he says, one day, I'll be talking to you, and I'll say, man, that's a nice shirt. My AI, who's always listening on my phone, knows I'm short shirts. Orders me that shirt.
MasterCard unveils Agent Pay, agentic payment technology to power commerce in the age of AI. So it's not just MasterCard, it's going to be all the credit cards. I think there's a very near future where I speak and stuff shows up on my doorstep. I don't think about it, it just magically happens. In fact, I'll take it a step further. I think AI is going to be listening to my conversations when I say, Salim, I really love that shirt. And it knows I need a shirt, so it just, asks your AI where you got that shirt, and then it just delivers to me magically the next day.
So Without even knowing it, one day I come home and that shirt is right there from the mail.
I don't think that's going to, not in America. In other countries, I think that would happen, but not in America, because there needs to be some type of control that a human authorizes the transaction. Like what I've seen in cybersecurity today, everything's about two-factor authentication. It's so fucking annoying. Passwords work. People are stupid with their passwords, but passwords work. So now we have all these, to deal with stupid people, we added another layer of security with two-factor authentication and biometrics and what's it called? Passwordless keys, pass keys. That's the next thing that dynamic will be applied to purchasing.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a security thing. It's a security concern that imagine like if somebody gains access to your account. I mean, we don't even have to imagine this, it happens. And they are buying a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't authorize. That authorization piece, it's important. You can't. There will be versions that exist where you can auto buy without confirmation.
What if you tell the AI you can make auto purchases up to $200?
Sure. That there's a limit though. That's okay. Because that right now, banks have that. If I make a purchase, or if you make a purchase that's out of the ordinary using a bank account or using your bank account, that's like $5,000. Okay, when's the last time you made a $5,000 purchase? My point is like thousands of dollars is
Flagged.
Yeah, it's flagged.
It's unusual activity.
Yeah, exactly. It's abnormal activity for your account. And so the same thinking then has to apply to, so there's like restrictions that we don't know about that exist to detect abnormal behavior that could be suspicious. And that's one of them.
And like I said, but just now, a couple minutes ago, is that I do think the future will trend dystopian, but there are good things. We went to go look at a gym, and they said we had to sign in and all this shit. It'd been much easier if I had my AI on my phone, and they have it something similar, an AI system, like let's say the gym AI system, and I could just say, fill out the credentials that I need to walk around this area to give it a check.
See, I don't think that would work.
Yeah.
Not in America. I think it can be done. I just don't think it'll happen in America, because what you're talking about is AI to AI communicating. And the way that our society works is that there's so much security baked in these days to every facet.
You know, that's what they're building right now. Facebook, Amazon, they're building these AI agents.
Yeah,
for this use.
Yeah, but what they're going to do.
What do you think? They're just not going to implement them?
These are aspirational marketing comments that they make about what they'd like them to do. But what they end up doing is completely different from what they talk about. Sure. Now, I'll give you an example. Would be like Google search. Google search used to be great. I remember at one point, Google search engine was tweaked so much so that you could sift through like 20 pages with just the right combination of words in the search bar to get to the meat of what you wanted to look at. And then based on your search history, you could actually narrow down faster with less words. But guess what? It was too efficient. It was too efficient.
Too efficient? What does that mean?
Too efficient. So, well, it means that you could find the information you needed too fast. So because you could find it too fast, people, number one, the government didn't like that. Finding information you need quickly? No. Now Google search sucks.
I don't believe that interpretation. My interpretation is that the problem is sifting through. Like this is the thing that AI is helping with, is that there's so much data, right? But once data becomes such a large pool, it becomes useless unless you can sift through it quickly and find what it is you're looking for. And that's the problem. There's so much on the internet now.
Let me give you an example. So like, let's say I wanted to find a specific chapter in the anarchist cookbook. Okay. Years ago, probably like a decade ago at this point, because we're 2025, so this would be like 2015. I think that would be accurate. I'd say around 2015 is when the height of Google search was like at its pinnacle. That's when it was like really good and it was getting better. So if I wanted to search like for a specific chapter in the anarchist cookbook, like, I don't know, how to make lava, how to make a bomb.
Make lava?
Yeah, you can make lava with the right combination.
Oh, you mean like chemical?
Yeah, and you can make like a a bomb, like something that with the mixture of chemicals, you could shake it up together. You can just toss it in like a container that's
The
hermetically
Molotov
sealed,
cocktail?
something like that. But you don't have to light it. You just mix these chemicals together, shake it up, you throw it, it explodes.
Okay.
So I could find out how to do that using Google search. Now,
Yeah.
can you do that now? No. You have to, and a book like that is banned.
That's different. It's censored.
Now, yeah.
Of course.
Well, that's my point. There's a lot of
That's different
censoring.
than what you said, though.
I think it's in the same vein, though.
No, it isn't.
Because, yeah, it is. Because you can't, the point is that you could find it at one point. Now you can't find it at all. You could find it now. If it was censored or it's content that's not available. But now it just doesn't show up. It's been wiped off the internet completely. And now, because that it's a little bit different than what I'm talking about, slightly different.
It's a big difference.
No, I think
So
it's
if you're
the
searching
same.
of lyrics to a song or how to buy a vinyl record or blah, 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 right? That's what we're looking up. Who are these people looking up how to make bombs and lava? That's you doing weird shit. And yeah, Google's going to hide that. What do you mean?
Well, let's say I was looking up like someone's life, like an author's life, like Frank Herbert. Okay, that's a better example. If I'm still reading Dune, and I got interested in the author's background. If you do a search for like Frank Herbert's life before Dune, some results populate that have some information, but you can't sift through it. You have to go to each one of these freaking sites to get pieces of information from like 20 different sites. Whereas if you have the right combination of words and text field for the search that I'm talking about years ago, you could get to the heart of the information you were looking for. But now it just doesn't work.
To me, the reason for that is the ocean of information. Now, this is where I'll show you a better example. So I got this M3 gimbal, right?
Okay.
Now, if I have a question, why is this happening? Where is this error coming from? I'm going to get pages and pages and pages of
Right.
shit
Oh.
I'm not even talking about.
That's a great example. Yeah. Troubleshooting. This is what I'm talking about.
You can't find it.
I
There's
know.
too much.
I know.
Which is where AI agent comes in. They'll find it for you.
So one thing I have noticed is like with certain, like GPT, ChatGPT and other derivations therein, is that you can use that as an agent to go and search for the specific information that you're looking for. So instead of you doing it, you have your AI assistant kind of weed through exactly what you're looking for. I mean, that works. The problem is you have to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
GPT is like $20 a month. 20
Let's-
times 12, that's like 100, I don't know.
So we're going to move into another clip.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I've seen this clip on other, because for a while now, I've been watching this AI stuff, right? David Sachs, of course, he's going to hype up with the guy you don't like on the All In podcast. But basically,
Sachs.
yeah,
I don't not like him, but he's just kind of weird.
I like him. I like his voice too. He has a really good speaking voice.
I think he has like an annoying speaking voice. It's kind of
Dude.
like, it's like nails on chalkboard.
Dude, I have the complete opposite. If he read a book, I'd listen to it so I can listen.
Really?
He has such a good speaking voice. Yeah.
He speaks well, but his voice is annoying. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, anyway.
It's not just the individual chips that are getting better. They're figuring out how to network them together, like with NVL72. It's like a rack system to create much better performance at the data center level. And that would be like the third area where you're seeing basically exponential progress. Just look at the number of GPUs that are being deployed in data centers. So when Elon first started training Grok, I think they had maybe 100,000 GPUs. Now they're up to 300,000. They're on their way to 1 million. Same thing with OpenAI's data centers, Stargate. And within a couple of years, they'll be at, 5 million GPUs, 10 million GPUs. You're going from 100 megawatt data centers to 300 megawatts to, we're just starting to now see the first gigawatt power data centers. I don't even think they're live yet, but this is where they're trying to get to. And I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that we could be at 5 or 10 gigawatt data centers in the next, several years. The algorithms, the chips, and the data centers are all improving or scaling at a rate of, I don't know, 3 to 4x a year. That's 10x every 2 years. Okay. Where people don't understand exponential progress is that if you're getting better at 10x every 2 years, that doesn't mean you'll be at 20x in 4 years. It means you'll be at 100x. So the models, the chips, and the data centers will all be 100 times more powerful in 4 years. So you multiply those things together, the algorithms, the chips, and then the raw compute that's available, you're talking about a million X increase, some of which will be captured in price reductions. Some of it will be in the performance ceiling, and then some of it will just be in the overall amount of AI compute that's available to the economy. But the impact of this thing is going to be absolutely massive.
So he said that the growth of AI, right? He said you can't just look at it as just how good the algorithms are getting. You have to put at how many data centers are coming online and how many GPUs they have at each data center.
Not enough.
He said, you know, the ones that have already been built, there's like 1 million, or I think the one he said for Grok had 1 million, right?
1 million what?
1 million GPUs. He said the next ones that they're looking to build have 5 million GPUs. He says 4 years from now, it could be 10 million GPUs per server. So you think about that growth, right?
Okay.
And you couple that.
That's an interesting way to look at it, is he's looking at it from the physical resources needed to power technology. That's a very non-technical way of reading the landscape, reading the future of this particular tech, which I think it leaves room for mistakes and misunderstandings and not completely comprehending the challenges that particular technology is going to run into. But anyway, go ahead.
So he was saying that, and then you have to look at the different companies that are working on this new tech, right? So you have the biggest ones in the world, the Apples, the Amazon, the Google, but there's also tons of other smaller companies that are all working on their own models, all working on modified models, right?
Yeah, these are called local. Is that
they got local ones, but also it's both. It's like a larger general one, and then like specific case ones.
Which one would be better, I wonder? A built-out local AI model without connectivity to a cloud, without connectivity to other data sources, or one that's in the cloud?
I'll tell you what, one, at least
it depends.
Well, there's another clip about Mark Zuckerberg talking about this, but basically they have a large model.
Yeah.
That's very expensive to run.
Yeah.
But he said, you could compress it where you have 90% of use of the same use as the big model, but only 10% of the resources needed. So he's saying you make these big models and then you make specific case use models. Like, hey, I need a secretary. So you have a model specifically built to be a secretary.
Okay.
That is 90% as smart as the big model, but it's for a specific case and uses much less resources. Like, there's another clip I have, which I always like looking at what is a specific case used for something, right? And one of the people on the podcast talks about how he's in shipping, like, what was the thing that George says in Seinfeld? I'm in
Import export.
Yeah, import export, right? A lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of, you know. Anyway, but he's saying like one of the big things is before you can sell a product into a country, you have to go through its category system.
Yeah.
And you have to find out what the tax and duties are on a specific item. And he says it's like a gigantic Christmas tree. So if you want to sell a shoe, you have to say like, he starts off with like, okay, well, what's the material? Well, the top's leather. Okay. Then what's the sole? Rubber. What's the inside? You can go to this giant tree until you get to the end, and then it says, okay, this is the tax owed, this is the duty owed. I was like, that's interesting. I never heard of that. But he said basically that the AI can do it. He said when they first tested it, 70% accuracy. It's just not good enough. Now it's 95% accuracy. So it's still not good enough, but we're almost there. And I thought that was interesting that because you could be doing something illegal, right? It's kind of like the lawyers, or people using digital lawyers now. You seen those?
Yeah.
So, but the AI is making up stuff
Yeah, it's
in
called
court documents.
it's called hallucinations.
Yes, but then they're filing it in court, and then the other side is catching it, and that's illegal. You can't just make stuff up, right? So that small percent is getting wrong is actually really huge. But I think there might be new laws for small mistakes. Because think about how helpful it is to have all these agents. So what if they get 3% wrong?
I think it'll depend on what administration is, which party is in power. Because the trend that I see is like, well, Democrats, they tend to want to, at first, you look back at the Obama years, they were very tech friendly, exceedingly so. What you got then? And so, now, but I think there's been a switch. Like Republicans are more tech friendly, especially, in 2025 with the current administration. And what we see is that there's a lot of movement within the tech industry to support this administration's efforts to help them build and grow their services. And one of the things that is kind of like the platform of the Republican Party is, let the free markets do what the free markets do. Don't control it, remove regulations, allow the markets to compete at their own level, and then let the Democrats come in and put controls and regulations on the market to stifle it. And then when they get back into power, so it's like this cycle.
Well, this is the thing, in my opinion, the left is super anti-tech for a reason that since Obama too. You know why? Energy. It turns out that one of the main limiters that can limit our country compared to China or something like that is that we do not have an energy policy of build more plants, coal, whatever, build them. But China, I forget what they said, like China's building a new power plant like every couple months. And we don't build them for years, we'll go without building one. And the thing is, it's like they said, these data centers, they're gonna take so much energy.
They already do.
Yeah, that we're not prepared for the increase in energy. Trump's policy of just drill, baby, drill, beautiful, clean coal, that's actually super pro-tech. That's what they need.
Yeah. Nope. Well, I think that's what a country in general. We've talked about this concept before called autarky, where it's basically a country can produce everything it needs itself. And that's becoming more popular in the world. For the longest time, we outsourced a lot of the manufacturing responsibilities to China. This caused globalization because China became the manufacturing powerhouse in the world. Everything's made in China. Now, the big focus of the current administration is reshoring. They want to reshore all these jobs. They want to reshore all these manufacturing jobs in the United States. And while I agree with it, there's pros and cons to it. If you look at Apple as a case study, if they brought all the manufacturing back to America, the cost of an Apple iPhone, which already is like 1,000% overpriced, would increase to like 3,000% overpriced. So it would cost over $3,000 to get the new version of the iPhone in the United States, if all the manufacturing jobs were here in the United States. And you'd have your AI assistant present in that phone. Maybe that might be an additional package you have to buy, like a trim for a car.
The idea that there's gonna be a lot of jobs created by these coming in to shore the new factories. I think the lie there is that these new factories will be designed with AI in mind from the beginning. And so the actual number of people hired in them is going to be way smaller.
That's an interesting take.
Because they're already thinking, well, it's going to take me a couple of years to build this. By that time, AI might be around here. So I'm going to build my plant with AI in mind.
So you're talking about like AI, like you're talking about smart warehouses. See, I don't know.
And smart manufacturing.
I think that, countries like Germany are doing things like that, but I think there's definitely still a lot of room for improvement there. And listen, what other countries do doesn't come to the United States right away. Like China's doing things with AI that are miles and leagues ahead of what we're doing. An example of that is not Perplexity. What was that AI?
Gemini?
No, it's the one that came out of China.
DeepSeek?
DeepSeek, yeah. So right now, there's things that DeepSeek can do that AI models in the United States cannot do because of regulation, because of limitations in power, processing, computing, and quite frankly, cost. So they scale up faster than we do, and they don't have the taxing issues with regulation that they have to consider. So you have a company like, I don't think DeepSeek is the company, but DeepSeek is the tech. So you have a company like DeepSeek or whatever, who they have this AI model, but they work with the government to get it productionized to compete immediately. And then they don't have these guardrails.
The government has made AI a priority.
Yeah.
So they're willing to let them work with less limitations.
Well, I think
because listen, AI is a huge threat to any country that has trying to lock itself in.
That is part of it, yes. But the morals, the attitudes, the moods of American society or society in general, they don't impact the same way in China that they do in the United States. So you look at one example where, let's say, you have an AI chatbot talking to somebody who's depressed, and the AI chatbot says, well, you sound really depressed. You might just want to call it quits. And the person says, well, maybe I should call it quits. And so that one instance of an AI chatbot giving advice would lead to this domino effect of regulation, because that one instance is one instance too much. But in China, so they say they have 1 billion people. And so the logic goes, well, they're not going to create regulation just for one example. They're going to say, well, it's just advice. Don't take it as gospel. But the reality is that in America, these sensibilities that exist in our society, it in many ways stymies technological advancement and progression.
I had an idea. One thing of this is that each country knows that AI is going to be a huge thing, right?
Yeah, it has uses.
It's going to be used more and more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Military applications specifically.
And for the reasons you're saying, it's going to be very important for them that the AI agent agrees with the government. And I think you're going to have AI specifically designed and created to agree with whatever government exists in the country, because the government will acquire it. So basically, if you have an AI model working in China, it's going to be pro-communism. It's going to be pro-government control. It's going to say, shouldn't we have freedom of speech? It's going to say, hold on, there's a lot of problems with freedom of speech. We don't like that.
Sure.
And think about Muslim countries. They have an AI that, and you ask it, is the Quran true? Can it tell you the truth? No. It's going to have to say, it's going to be specific to that region. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's going to be...
Unless you have an AI agent that's intended to distort the thinking in that region.
They'll get banned by that country.
But what if it's an AI agent tourist? But it's like, it's a malicious AI agent. So it's like
we already have those.
No.
What do you think social media is?
What I'm saying is it's like a malicious AI agent that tours a local region's internet for a specific period of time, spreading discontent and fomenting radical ideas in a region of the world that has never had that before. I think that is a more like.
This is the thing, though. This is the counter I have to that. Is
they're not ready. I mean, these developing countries, they're not ready for stuff.
But this is the thing.
That.
So I forget what it is. I don't play it, but basically, what was it? I don't know, some kind of shoot 'em game. I think it's what's the big one?
Call of Duty.
Is it Call of Duty? I don't know. But anyway, what it does is, while you're speaking in team chat, it is constantly listening to what you say.
And
if you say something bad or say something that's a banned word, it will either mute your mic or ban you from the actual thing. So there's an AI is constantly listening to everybody, and banning people or muting people who say things that are flag words. Okay? I think in the future, you will send a post, you will send a podcast, you will make a video. Between you and whatever service is hosting it, there will be an AI agent who sifts through the whole thing, edits it in real time, and before it even gets out. So even if you're in another country, you're trying to foment dissent. When you push post, what you post won't be what you wrote. It will be an edited version by an approved AI.
Yeah, I think that could happen.
Yep.
But I also don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. There's a lot of countries, they're not as technological. If you look at the most technologically advanced countries in the world, what immediately comes to mind? What countries come to mind?
What?
The most technologically advanced countries.
Well, the
in
Western
world.
and the Asian.
Yeah, so like America, China. But I mean, how many countries are there? Like 1,000, 3,000
I forget
countries
what it is,
in the world, and on this world.
Hundreds.
Yes, hundreds. So, I mean, you got to think like not all of them have the resources, the skill, the labor, the systems, the governance.
But this is the thing.
To implement these things and think in this way.
Google, you're allowed to use Google in China, but it's a modified Google.
Yeah.
See, they will work with them. So you think
Google actually works
that they
in
won't
China.
make it, they'll say, yes, we would like to purchase AI agents from you, Google, but you're going to have to modify them.
Yeah.
Either they're going to say no,
Yeah, but
no, they're going to say yes.
I'm not talking about China. China is the example, is the standard. I'm talking about like Georgia or
Once you-
Chechnya. Or
once you sell to
Belarus,
China-
or Ukraine, or Belgium,
No.
or
Once you sell something to China, you think it just stays in
Libya,
China?
or Egypt.
No.
My point is this: is like not all countries have the resources to do this. I think what you're saying makes sense.
No. This is what's going to happen.
I think it will happen.
Google will make a modified AI agent. China will look into that agent, find a way to replicate it, then sell it for cheaper to Iran.
They'll steal it,
and
then they'll
exactly.
modify it.
So, but they'll purchase it in order to steal it. And so
That is a technique. But
yeah,
there's export
and they're going to sell it for
controls.
cheap. They're going to sell one to North Korea.
Well, I think
They'll do it.
I think what will likely happen is that China will build counter agents to deny Western technology companies from gaining a foothold with their technology into certain countries. So, for instance, let's say like not the Philippines, but there's other countries in Africa in particular that are very friendly to China because China has been extending its influence. In eastern, northern, western, and southern China. And what we run into here is that, well, they're building relationships all along the way. They're building infrastructure, they're bringing economic prosperity, and they're building these networks of
So
connections
smart.
with the governments. Of
Could you
these
imagine
regions.
if you go to these
And
other
they're going to give them their
these
tech.
struggling countries and you're implementing
very
their AI agent?
It's very intelligent. Well, what they're doing is they're establishing telecommunications infrastructure, and then they're building military bases along these parts.
I think AI agent is even huge, more huge.
Well, yeah, because
Imagine you have AI agents watching everything.
If you build the infrastructure like the roads for cargo containers to travel within on a continent, right? You're bringing economic prosperity to a continent, so Africa. But if you're also putting down the telecommunication infrastructure along the way, you control the telecommunication infrastructure. And then in addition to that, you can sell them your technology for cheap. And that technology could have backdoors built into it. It could have long-term implications for wealth, health, and stability of a particular region of Africa. It could be one that's has like a strong leader, like Gaddafi in Libya or Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And what happens is you're providing all these resources to them. So what are you, as China, what are you doing? You're providing regional stability. And those leaders will remember that. They're gonna buy.
They're offering modernization.
Yes, they are going to be more inclined to purchase tech, weapons, everything from China. And they'll get it for cheap too. And that's what they'll use. And we're not doing that. We allow our free markets to do their thing.
No, we go to war with everybody. Instead of using our...
But if we're not doing that, we just allow, because like, listen, when Tesla became a global company, they started out as an American company, but in order to sustain growth, they had to go to China. I think that was a horrible move, but my point is like all local, all domestic companies that start out in the United States, they eventually become global if their growth path takes them that way. But most of the time they end up having to go to China, or they have to go to like where the big markets are. But what China's doing is they're creating the markets. They're creating the infrastructure for trade to flow between countries. They're creating the telecom infrastructure, and they're creating the technology that can be used in these environments. It's a long-term strategy, but I think it really pays off in the long term. Our strategy is to get up on a podium, speak, pontificate of the morals and we say we're going to give everybody democracy and freedom. Yeah. And we waste tons of money, tons of life. We may give, but it's given to corrupt leaders who pocket it, or it's misused and abused, and it leads to...
Or it gets fed right back to our military industrial complex.
Yeah, for buying weapons.
So Raytheon stock goes back up.
So, but my point here is that, in comparison, China has like a long-term strategy. America's strategy is to pontificate about the moral uprightness of liberty and freedom, which there is truth to those things, but these countries are not looking for more talk. They're looking for action. And if we're not going to provide this to them in some way, via technology, via hard resources, there's going to be another competitor who's going to come in and do that. So if our AI agents are, let's say our AI agents are being deployed to these regions, well, if China already has influence in that region, what's the likelihood that one country is going to want to work with us versus China? Look at all these things China has done for them. They would likely have a conversation with the leaders and say, look, you don't really want that Google agent. You don't really want that Amazon agent. You want ours, because what that agent's going to do is it's going to espouse these crazy ideas of liberty, freedom of speech.
This is where the very specific task agent is going to be so useful. This agent is built to do what this one specific task. And now you would pay a monthly subscription to have this one agent do this one thing.
But couldn't it be subverted?
I'm sure everything can.
Yeah.
And then it'll be patched, and then there'll be a break, and there'll be a patch, and there'll be a break, just like with everything else.
Yeah.
All right, there's another topic, which I find is interesting. I used to look into, I think it was something like Alex Gray or something like this, but there was a guy who used to come on and talk about telomeres and extending life.
Yeah.
So I was listening to a podcast recently about how there's a new life extension company, and
what's it called?
I don't remember the name of it.
Okay.
But basically the idea is the guys there, they're not biologists or like lab scientists. They're basically all AI people. And he said the problem with the body is that you have trillions of cells and billions of chemical reactions happening every second.
Kleiner Perkin leads a $130 million round in Coinbase founders anti-aging startup Ulimit. Let me break this down. And what we've seen is a number of billionaires investing in something called epigenetic reprogramming. So what is that? So as I like to remind people, you get 3.2 billion letters from your mom, 3.2 billion letters from your dad. That's your genome, about 22,000 genes. And you have that same software when you're born, when you're 20, when you're 50, when you're 100. And so the question is, if you're running the same software, why do you look different? Why don't you have a six-pack at age 100 that you had when you were 18? And it turns out it's not the genes you have, it's your epigenome, epi from the Greek word for above. It's which genes, it's your control system. It's which genes are on and which genes are off. And as you get older, the genes that should be on get silenced, get turned off. The genes that should be off get turned on. And there's a whole bunch of issues. Folks like George Church, David Sinclair have been pioneering this. And epigenetic reprogramming is, can we turn back the clock and set your epigenome to an earlier state? And the data appears to be not only yes, but hell yes. It should be noted that a lot of this is now made possible because of AI. Because the ability to actually process all the data from the experiments and decide what transcription factors to use. We are 40 trillion human cells running about 2 to 5 billion chemical reactions per second. And just trying to understand the amount of data is really hard. And so when I visited both Brian and Blake at New Limit, and they're very proud, the majority of their team are all AI first technologists. You know, they're not lab geeks.
Yeah.
And how can you even understand that? Well, you can't without AI. And he said this company is using the new tech of AI to understand the body to produce longevity products. And I thought that makes sense finally.
Yeah, I think research like that makes more sense in China than it does here. There's just too much regulation that makes doing that type of research here painful. Now, that doesn't mean people won't do it. It's just, if you look at the rate of progress because of all these restrictions and regulations that exist in our health industry, and you look at China and you just compare ours to China, they're just like, well, no. We don't need that, what's it called, double-blind trials. Maybe there is no trials. They just test it differently. But their rigor is completely different than China. So technology like that, like they don't have qualms with like doing animal testing. They don't have qualms with doing human-based testing. Here, forget about it. There's a ton of issues, like ethical issues, that come into play when you consider animal or human trials. But the ethics in China, as an example, are completely different. And by that standard, they are so different in Russia, North Korea, Iran, and other countries throughout the Horn of Africa and the Middle East.
Well, this is the thing, is that I mostly have a dystopian view, like I said, but these are one of the things that, you know, one thing that always bothered me is people who are fucked from birth, right? They have fucked up genes right out of the get-go. Their genes do not work. And
like, give me an example, like some of this.
Well, for instance, there was a guy
or
where I used to work a long time ago. There was a guy who would come in, a young kid, maybe 13, 14, and he had like this walker, and his legs, you could tell he had barely had control of it, and they would kind of move in a jerky fashion as he tried to move around the store.
Okay.
Right? And you could tell he must have had some kind of, was born with some kind of
muscle
degenerate
or something.
Yeah, something that was making his legs not work.
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, one day we're going to have a world where that doesn't happen anymore. And I think that with the tech of CRISPR and AI, maybe finally, you know, not now, but I could see in the near future, maybe still in our lifetime, that babies can be tested in the womb and they can fix them.
Again,
they can use, you know, process their DNA through AI.
Yeah.
Know what to cut and what to put in due to AI learning. And we can fix babies, and there won't be babies born with bad lungs and legs that don't work and all that stuff.
Again, I think in places that have less ethical concerns with those issues, they are going to advance much more quicker than us. We don't, than the United States. The reason the parties exist the way they do, you have one that's progressive, you have another that's conservative, is because there's supposed to be this tug of war between progress and conservation. And that tug of war leads to an incremental growth and then a backtrack, an incremental growth and then a backtrack. It's not conducive towards advancing technology. And what I have consistently seen in academia is like, there's more restrictions put on academia than there are restrictions put on academia in other countries. So I agree. I think it's something that I think the technology is there already. It's just, it exists in other countries. Now, what ends up happening is, once we fall behind, we realize like, oh, we need that technology. So we have to go out and get it somehow, or we have to find ways to advance our technology to get up to that point that a competitor is at.
It's like we've said about the moon, right? Our government doesn't give a shit about the moon, but once another country lands on the moon and starts building a base, suddenly,
for all mankind,
suddenly we'll go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We need to get to the moon.
Yeah, we can't. They can't do that. We're America. We get there first. It's the race to the base.
And that's the thing. That
catchy.
Our government, like I was telling you, even with Obama talking about, you can drill for gas, but you're not going to make any money doing it. basically they were talking about the carbon credits and all that shit.
He was talking about
we're gonna
that
tax
time.
you and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So it's not gonna be profitable. So go ahead and make a new hole if you want to, but you ain't gonna make no money. So
Right.
that kind of attitude where they're not seeing in the future needs, and just like everyone knows, space is going to be a huge part of the future.
The way
Control of space is going to be not only economical control, but it's going to be military control. But we don't have that vision anymore, man.
the way to make the technology advance incrementally faster, not so like by bounds and leaps, not inches in a foot, is you have to connect it somehow to military application. You do that, and then that synthesis of academia and national defense, all of a sudden, it's
Well,
like,
look at
it's like jet fuel for the research.
Look at the drones, right? So
Oh yeah,
after the war in Ukraine, the drones that will be available, the tech on them is going to be probably, 10, 20x what they were before the war, because of all the progress that was forced to happen due to extreme circumstances.
yeah. No, I agree. And there's applications of drone that exist now that include AI utilization that the public really doesn't know about. If you kind of read between the lines of what's reported in publications and other scholarly journals, more focused publications that focus on military and strategy, as well as news-based reporting, you can kind of read between the lines and kind of get a sense that there is a considerable amount of progress that has been made in drone warfare, both above ground, so in the air, and beneath the ocean, that kind of allows your mind to drift into a realm of science fiction, which could be kind of scary in the future. Because when you layer on now, like what they call them drone swarms, and you have them all connected by AI working in tandem together, I mean, that's a pretty powerful application of military technology.
This is what you do. You marry that with Korean StarCraft gamers, it's over, dude. It's over.
Their micro is pretty good. It's only gotten better over the past 30 years.
Imagine they're getting real satellite data, real time, and they're like highlighting stuff and clicking and going boom, 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 boom. It's over.
So you're talking about like somebody like controlling the drones?
Yeah, it basically looks like
Instead of
looking
drone?
at a StarCraft map, you're looking at a Google map of the real Earth. And you have the positions of all the drones because their AI is talking to each other and talking to a satellite.
Yeah.
And you're getting a feed of that instantaneously. You put in the UI of StarCraft, global domination.
How about that?
Yep.
So
Let the best gamer win.
I think we've heard more about AI adaptation to drones, primarily like drone swarms, but discussed more so than we have about drone technology beneath the waves. And I think that's interesting to consider because beneath the waves makes more sense to me for AI testing, AI field testing, AI integration, because of the underwater sea cages. There was a report not too long ago, I think I heard it or read about it in Reported Future, and an investigation was conducted on one of the underwater sea cables that was cut. So apparently it was either I think it was a Chinese tanker. They dropped their anchor and it was dragging along the ground, which is where the underwater sea cable was near in like,
By Alaska or something?
no, in the Norwegian Channel, I think the Baltic Sea. And it cut the cable. It was just a tanker. It didn't mean to do it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But it cut the cable. So now there's like these drones, these underwater drones that are patrolling the underwater sea cables, where Russian submarines and Chinese ships frequent. And now,
So like AI subs that are just put on a tracking path.
I mean,
and they just kind of loop around,
Sure.
checking the cables.
sure. I mean, the same way we played Warcraft and Starcraft, the same way that
Yeah, you
could
got
set, like,
patrol.
a patrol pattern.
Yeah, patrol pattern.
I mean, that was basic command that you could link, that you could cycle through just to make sure like a particular area it hasn't been attacked yet, but you want to make sure nothing happens there. So you're going to set like a couple sentries there to give you early warning.
Yeah.
Well, I think the underwater guardians I think there's a lot more application for utilizing AI there because you're not going to see a lot of activity. And the one time you do, you have your early warning system in place to respond a little bit
It's a
quicker.
good practice area
Yeah,
to test things out in a way that no one's looking really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's smart. All right, I'm going to go to another clip. Now, I know you're annoyed by David Sachs. Zuckerberg?
It's just how he looks.
Zuckerface?
He looks like a...
I was watching
No, he looks pompous.
He is pompous.
Yeah.
He has a huge ego.
He looks exactly how he talks.
Yeah. But anyway,
I'm sure he's a nice guy, but...
so Mark Zuckerberg, right? I was listening to an interview with him recently. He was talking about the Llama AI that his company is building. And he's, to me, I don't like the tone or sound of his voice. I don't like the way he looks. He looks stupid.
Zuckerberg?
Yeah. I don't like anything about him. To me,
I think he's fine.
he's so
Okay.
fake. He's got the fake positivity. I hate the fake positivity.
He's
It's
just a
so
nerd.
annoying.
He's a nerd.
No,
He became corporate.
it's more than that. I can endure a nerd. It's a fake positivity, like, what the hell, we're going to help everybody and everything. Shut up.
But a lot of the open source community wants even smaller models. So to be able to build, the most popular Llama 3 model was the 8B. And we'll work on a smaller version. I talked about that earlier. The internal we refer to as Little Llama, but we'll see what we actually ship as. But being able to basically take whatever intelligence you have from bigger models and distill them into whatever form factor you want to be able to run on your laptop, on your phone, on whatever the thing is.
He's naive.
It's
naive.
It's fake naivete.
It's naive optimism.
He's the head of $1 billion corporation, okay? He's not naive of what's going on. He knows exactly what's
I
going
think
on.
he chooses to be positive, and that just kind of helps get on with light.
It's a fake. He's going to be on TV. He's going to be around people, so he has a fake persona that's just so fake. It's annoying.
See, I don't know that he has the ability to have a fake persona.
I do.
I think he can do a little bit of it because it takes a lot of energy to do something like that.
What if he's been doing it a
Like,
long time?
I think like politicians have. So like Trump is a great example.
Yeah.
He has a TV persona, and then he's got his real persona.
Like when Bill Maher talked to him, remember?
Yes, 100%. And what did Bill say? He said, "Look, I didn't feel I had to walk on eggshells with him at all, and I felt that way with Obama, and I felt that way with Biden, but not with Trump." So I mean, that says a lot. But I don't.
He said that guy you see on TV, I did not see him that night.
Yeah, and I think Zuckerberg is kind of because he's such a dork. Like he built Facebook in his dorm room. Okay, he is a nerd. He has grown as a person, but at his core, he's a nerd. And I think nerds can grow, but a lot of it's either in you and you're willing to do it, or it's not in you and you're not willing to do it. And there's some that can kind of straddle the line. Elon's a great example. He started out as a nerd. He became a businessman. And then I don't know where the fuck he's at in his mind, smoking weed, fucking people constantly. He's
Collecting hoes, like Pokemon.
he's collecting them all.
Yep.
And now he has like 14 kids, 15 kids. I mean, I don't think he's going to stop.
Nope.
But my point is this, is like Elon grew, he started out as a nerd, he became a businessman. He was very naive early on. We know this because of the type of support he got. But he has kind of gotten to that point where he has a fake persona. Like the person we see on TV now is not the person who started.
Yeah.
And it's completely different. Now, has his TV persona become his real life? Has it taken over his personal persona? I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Well, anyway, on stage, Zuckerberg was talking about how, again, they're improving Llama. And
Okay.
they're, like I was saying before, his idea is to make a super advanced, intelligent Llama AI model.
Okay.
And then use that model to train smaller, specific use case models. And he said that a lot of people that he's been talking to, they want what you're talking about is a model that can exist on a server in their business, in their home, right? That can sit in there and do the things that they want, right? And he said, which I thought was interesting, is that 30% of the code that they're writing right now
Okay.
is done by AI. And he expects it to be
Okay.
50% in a couple of years.
I've analyzed lines of code and gotten pretty decent responses. So like what I'll do is I'll take a line of code, I'll pop it into your AI assistant of choice, and I say, what does this line of code mean? I get a response. I check that response with do my own research. I compare it, and it's pretty accurate.
Yes. That was really, really, really good.